What's up, guys? Eli the Ninja here again. Today we're going to do my review of my new controller here, which is the GameSir G7 SE. I've been playing with it for about a week now, and I got some ideas, so let's jump into it. All right, so first things first, let's just talk about the price. I mean, that's going to be probably the biggest thing for a lot of people, if they're going to be able to afford it or not. The GameSir coming in at $44.99 currently on Amazon. Not sure if you could buy it elsewhere for more or less, but that's where I got mine. Compared to the Gambit Victrix, which is a controller I had before, which was $99. And I actually went through two of them in the span of about 4 months. So I ended up spending a total of $200. Obviously should have got the warranty. I'll never make that mistake again. Always going to get the warranty to just get a new one if one stops working. But yeah, at $45, it's definitely one of the cheapest ones on the market. I mean, if you go and look at Scuff, the Xbox Elite Series 2, Battle Beaver, a lot of these controllers are $200 or more dollars. So I was definitely attracted to the price, but more so attracted to some of the other features of the controller. So let's talk about the joysticks. Now, the joysticks on the GameSir are what are called Hall effect joysticks, which are different from analog joysticks. According to Google, Hall sending joysticks use a magnet that moves in relation to an electrical conductor. The positional tracking for the joysticks is obtained by the change in voltage observed when the magnetic field crosses the electric field. So essentially there's no physical components touching one another. There's just the stick hovering above the detector. And because there's no physical potentiometer, which are in the analog sticks, this prevents the possibility, supposedly, of drift developing. And that's a big deal for me because when it came to the Gambit, when it came to the Xbox Elite Series 2, every controller I've used in the past developed drift pretty quickly. I don't know if it's because I maybe overuse the sticks. I play a lot. I do grip my controller very hard, so I don't know if that lessens the lifespan of some of these sticks, but drift has just been plaguing my experience with controllers for a long time. So that was the main reason I picked up the GameSir, was because of that. And if you think about it, you're also just going to have more control over the controller if there's no drift, because that means you can turn off your dead zones. Most people recommend dead zones that are just high enough to eliminate your stick drift. In Halo Infinite, a little bit of stick drift isn't so bad because it can actually activate the aim assist, but as long as you're moving at one stick or the other, you're going to have aim assist. So I think that's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, turning off the dead zones on the Hall effect joysticks has made it feel like I have great control over my aim and centering and positioning, and I just feel a lot more fluid in game. All right, so let's talk about input delay. So I did find some information online regarding the input delay of different controllers. This here is a list of some of the controllers that you can plug into your PC and their associated input delay. The Gambit actually has about 2 millisecond response time, which is quite fast in comparison to, this is the Xbox Series X controller, which has pretty fluctuating levels of input delay. All right, so we're gonna do a test of the polling rate and response time with the GameSir. This is a program that my friend Kills in the Night sent me, but it's just gonna measure the response time essentially. So I'm gonna move the left stick in a circle for a little while. And according to the software, we've got a polling rate of about 287 Hertz and average response time about 3.5 milliseconds. And this is pretty consistent. I've done this test a few times now. If you're going to compare this to the Xbox Series X controllers, it's about twice as fast, maybe a little bit more. Looks like the average response time is about 8 milliseconds. The Gambit Victrix is a bit faster than the GameSir at just under 2 milliseconds. But to me, the GameSir, I think, wins anyways, because even though it's 1.5 milliseconds slower on the input delay, the fact that you don't have stick drift and you can turn off your dead zones kind of makes up for it and makes it feel a little bit more responsive. But that's just my opinion. I mean, I do feel like the Gambit felt the best as far as how my aim was out the box. Out the box, I felt like when I use a Gambit, my aim is better than it is with any other controller. But the problem is the Gambit only lasts about a month before it starts developing stick drift, at least for me in my experience. So I've only had the GameSir for about a week now, so it is pretty early to say. I'll probably have to make a follow-up video and explain if this does somehow crap out on me, but based on what I've read and just the way it feels, and I've been, you know, kind of testing it every day, it really does feel like it's not going to develop stick drift. You know, fingers crossed. I have read that when it comes to potential issues with it, it comes down to if the controller is exposed to too much electromagnetism, I guess. So I don't know, perhaps if you leave the controller too close to other things that release electromagnetic energy, I don't know. I guess that's one of the ways that it can go bad, but it apparently is very rare and it's not something you typically have to worry about. Definitely not as much as you have to worry about developing drift on another controller. So overall, early impressions, I am very happy with the GameSir G7 SE. Very cheap controller, very responsive. The Hall effect sticks do make a big difference for me. And I'll just go through some of my settings with the controller as well. So right here, this is the software for the GameSir. It is called the GameSir Nexus. You can configure it just the same way that you would an Elite 2 or the Gambit Victrix. It has 2 back buttons. Back buttons can be mapped to anything except for L3 or R3. Those are not options on this controller for whatever reason. The sticks, you can actually change the dead zone through this app. So what I've done is I set the initial dead zone to 2, and I just have the max at 100. And I believe the 2 is essentially the low end of the dead zone. It feels like essentially no dead zone, but I originally had it on 7. That didn't feel great, to be honest. So I moved it down to 2. So taking a look at the adjustments I made to my Halo Infinite controller settings with this controller, I've actually had the same look acceleration, horizontal and vertical, for a long time now. I've used it on every controller, just 1, 5, and 7.5. I do prefer lower acceleration because I feel like it is more consistent without the controller speeding up or slowing down based on how long you've been moving it to a certain direction. I don't know. I'd rather it just be the same uniform speed whenever I'm moving it. And I find that lower acceleration achieves that result. This is the real changes that I made in comparison to the Victrix. So the dead zones on this controller, I just straight up have them off. There is no dead zone. 0 for both center and axial on both sticks. And I did bump up the max input threshold. I used to play on 0.5 on the Victrix, but on this controller, I bumped it up to 9, and this just feels like a sweet spot. I did run a bunch of octagons and kept playing with this value until it felt right. 9 feels like the sweet spot. It's also my lucky number, so why not? And then on the move stick, I do think the higher maximum input threshold makes sense. Kind of helps you strafe a bit faster as well. So these are my settings in the game. And then on top of that, I have the 2 on the lower value for the dead zone within the controller software here. And this is what all the clips that I've shown in this video, these are the settings that I've played on with the GameSir. Okay, and one last thing that I wanted to mention that actually made a huge difference with this controller. Actually, I forgot to mention, I really didn't like it when I first started using it. But I think it's because I didn't have the update. So it does not update on its own. If you do get this controller, you're going to want to make sure you go to the first page of the GameSir Nexus, and then make sure you click on this button, updates, and then update to the latest version. When I first played on it, I was on the 6.19 version, and it wasn't until I updated to the 6.2 version that the controller felt a lot better. All right, so those are my thoughts on the GameSir G7 SE. I do recommend giving it a shot. It is the cheapest controller on the market for the most part, so why not? I did go ahead and get the warranty anyways, just in case it does end up crapping out on me. You know, I can always just turn it in and get a new one. But yeah, early impressions are good, and that is my review. You guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more YouTube content from me. It's going to help me out a lot. And we'll see you in the next video.